I recently did a video where I listened to Follow by Martin Garrix and Zedd for the very first time and then attempt to remake it. And as promised, today I will give you the detailed explanation and a tutorial on how I made my remake. What's up guys, this is David Ritt and let's dive right in. So the lead sounds a little something like this. As you can see, it has 3 layers, and all these layers are a combination of different wavetables with different voices and different amounts of detuning. So the very first one, for example, here is a serum, and by the way, you can find all these presets in the description text down below. And in this case here, I have a saw wave and another wavetable that is called DS saw and try, and they both have 16 voices of unison, are detuned. And there's a little envelope here, and in the effects section over there I have a little bit of hyper to give it more room, more stereo with some distortion and some compression. Sounds like this. And all these layers are kinda similar but not the same. So this one here, for example, has this basic CJW, 7 voices and a little bit of detune, same envelope, some distortion and multiband compression, OTT. It's also an octave higher, as you can see, so if you put them together, these two, it sounds like this. So as you can hear, it already fills out the sound much more. And then I have a third layer here, and I called it weird because it's kind of weird. And it has this wavetable called PS2 Acid. If you ask yourself, how do I figure out which wavetable to use and which amount of voices and which amount of detuning, I have to say it's very much a process of trial and error. And over time, with experience, you just get better in kind of reaching for the right wavetable at the right time. Overall, I would say it's a lot of experimentation, and the more you experiment, the less amount of experimentation you need before you get something you like. So in this case as well, 16 voices, detune, and this other wavetable, also some multiband compression. These 3 layers combined sound like this. Additionally, I have a layer here that is doing just one note. Together, it sounds like this. I think that's a really important harmonic that gives the whole melody also a little bit of a call and response type thing, so that's really cool. For the effects here, I have some reverb, some stereo widening, some EQ, and some distortion. Don't forget the sidechaining, of course, here. I use Shaperbox at the moment. Kinda nice. At the very end there is an additional layer. It's a saw slash a square wave kind of thing. It plays this melody. Together it sounds like this. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, all right. Let's move on to the bass. The bass sounds like this. Very gritty, very heavy, very distorted, just beautiful. But first things first, so what we definitely need is a sub-bass layer. And a sub-bass is usually just composed out of a sine wave that you can maybe distort a little bit if you want to. And this layer is the only layer that is actually providing the sub-bass area of the bass. So Everything below 100 Hz only comes from this layer, because if you look at these other layers, the low end is rolled off there, because I want to control the sub bass very nicely and measure it compared to the kick, and I don't want any of my other sounds or effects mess up my pure clean sine wave. I also want the sine wave to be perfectly mono, perfectly in the center, so that's why I usually like to put my sub bass on a additional layer that is pretty much untouched from everything else that is happening. So that's the basics, but other than that, you know, we have 4 layers here. Let's listen to the first layer. The name of the game for this bass sound is definitely distortion. So the first layer sounds like this. Main thing here in the sound, you can use, you know, figure out some wavetable. I use this one here, and the distortion makes it what it is. So if I turn off the distortion, I use diode 2 here. It's very heavy distortion. Yeah, so the distortion is really what makes it shine. Second layer is quite similar, but an octave higher. Also has heavy distortion on it, and another wavetable. As you can see, these sounds are very mono. They only have one voice, so there's no detuning because I want them dead center in the middle of the stereo field. The other 2 layers are not mono. They are detuned and they provide the stereo width of the sound. So for example, this sound here, again, I have voices and I do detune them. It's a saw wave, some distortion and multiple compression. You know the drill. So it's very wide in the stereo field, and that's a really nice addition. So when you do your bass, when you do the layering for your bass, combining sounds that are very center with sounds that are very wide is often a good idea, because there's space in the stereo field if you look at it from this way, you know. So that's really useful. The last layer is also very wide and is an octave higher and sounds like this. All together. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon, and until then, goodbye.